Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shaykh. How are you doing?
Doing good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen.
Alhamdulillah. So, I think we're just waiting on Ustadh, inshallah. He should be joining us any minute. Alhamdulillah.
How is the family and everyone doing, Shaykh?
Doing good, alhamdulillah. Just trying to keep up with everything.
Yeah. It's all over the news today that they're trying to get the schools open by the next academic year.
Really?
Yeah, they're pushing hard for that. All the schools back open again.
Well, it coincided with our announcement that we're starting the academic year online. So I guess that's kind of awkward, but kind of shows what side of the issue we're on. But yeah, and I would tell people, like our statement, which, we all kind of went over together and, deliberated over together and then discussed for weeks and weeks, if not even months. It's not, our position and things like that is not really politically motivated. It doesn't really work into the political frame or the political scheme of things. It's more just motivated by practicality and safety. And practicality was another big part of it, that so many of our students, a majority of our students, last academic year, 2019, 2020, at the Qalam Seminary, we had over 100 students across the 5 classes, the 5 years of classes. And the majority of them are from out of city and out of state. And so expecting people to move, halfway across the country and figure out a living situation and all that in the midst of a pandemic is it's difficult. It's difficult to say the least. So understanding that, as we kind of said in the statement, none of us really is excited about the prospect of just purely doing our full-time studies online. As we said in the statement, we're big believers in tarbiyah and suhbah as being integral parts of the process. These aren't just flowery words that we just kind of throw around. We believe in these concepts, and we have ourselves experienced the benefit of that, and we've even seen the benefit of that in our students up to this point. So while we aren't looking forward to this situation, at the same time, it's, as they kind of say, it's responsibility demands, right? That we think it through and take the most responsible course of action. I know that you were sharing some very, beneficial, some very powerful thoughts about the benefit of tarbiyah and suhbah and in-person learning and education. If you could kind of share some of that.
This has been, this is probably, the statement I'm about to make is so overplayed because everyone says it, but I think everyone that says it really means it, that the situation we're in is very unique. It's different. The people who are really serious students and are looking for the whole experience of studying, which includes the suhbah element, benefiting from the teachers, benefiting from the classroom, benefiting from classmates. Unfortunately, being online has lessened their experience. It's not the same. It's not the same experience that they would have had they been on campus. But where one group is missing out on something, I feel like the opportunity of studying has now become available to everyone else.
Mm.
There are so many people over the years that have been telling me that they've wanted to study, they've wanted to memorize the Quran, they've wanted to take a class, and now because it's becoming more clear to them that their university is going online, a university they've always wanted to go to but couldn't go to due to geographical distance, now they can go and study there. Now they can go and study at that Islamic organization, at that program, because now those programs are offered online. But one of my biggest concerns regarding moving everything online has always been that what I fear would be that people become so comfortable with studying online that when the opportunity, inshallah, represents itself of coming and studying in person, some of us may not make it to the classroom because we'll be content with the subpar offerings of teaching online. At Qalam, we have offered offerings online in the past, and we still do, but we always view it as the second sort of option. The second option. The first option is come in person, study. There are teachers, there are classmates, there's an environment. And then I also worry about the bar being lowered as in terms of, people teaching. And we had a discussion on this not too long back about selecting your teachers carefully. So anyone that has a camera, anyone that has decent tajweed, anyone that has, some knowledge of, like I'm talking, when I say some, I mean like basic entry level 1 + 1 = 2 knowledge of hadith and Quran, that person can easily start presenting themselves as a learned individual. And that becomes, that's something that really worries me a lot. I think in my mind, I'm really interested in the students having a deep understanding of the religion. But what I'm very interested in, and this is me personally, Hussain Kamani, like when I'm on campus with the students at Qalam, this is what's on my mind. How does this knowledge benefit this student from a spiritual perspective? The tarbiyah, the upbringing of the student. If I have a student that maybe followed the class 80% instead of 100, but I know that in the meantime, where they lost out on that 20%, I see them growing so many more folds in terms of their own tarbiyah, their own tazkiyah. It really means a lot to me. When I see a student of knowledge or a person praying their sunan before and after salah, when I see someone taking out time for dhikr every day, when I see them taking out time for tilawat al-Quran, and it's not at the cost of knowledge. I don't want to paint that sort of experience either. It's both, and that's why we take ilm of the deen from people of the deen. And it's interesting because we have a question here from someone. What is this? Let me see one. I saw a question a moment ago. Do you see it, Shaykh?
I do. So it's same thing that Sheikh Saad Qadri, he had presented that question last week as well.
Oh,
that given what we talked about earlier, how should we react to unfortunate situations involving maybe some leaders and da'is in the community, scandalous kind of situations. Obviously, nobody's perfect, but at the same time, these are people that individuals have looked up to or learned from or been influenced by. How do we kind of react to that and handle that?
Okay. We addressed this before, right?
We did last week. We talked about it where, it goes back to that same thing of what we're talking about, that if the connection is just going to be virtual and distant and remote, and that becomes, again, it's, we want to balance it out where, yeah, you can get some inspiration and some motivation from, kind of a distant third party resource. But that cannot become like a meaningful source of your actual like learning and tarbiyah and growing in terms of your deen. That has to be more of an up close, in person, where exactly where you're getting your knowledge from. You interact with them, and Mufti Kamani had mentioned very beautifully like things in regards to the person's own practice of the deen, the person's own kind of wara and taqwa, and the person's own akhlaq and character, the person's own personal lifestyle, and how admirable their lifestyle is, and how they conduct themselves and live their lives, and so on and so forth. That then you're able to observe all of that and then understand that, okay, this is a safe place for me to, this is a safe place, a safe person for me to be able to really meaningfully connect myself to.
I remember the statement of Shaykh Muhammad Awama, where he was talking about the scholar, how a person of knowledge is someone that has two things. He talks about ilm and diyana, that a true scholar will have knowledge and diyana. You can look at it maybe like
integrity.
Practice.
Integrity, like this
integrity,
integrity in terms of fima bainahu wa bain Allah, between them and Allah, and their deen and their dealings and in their transactions and in their lifestyle. I mean, even from like usul hadith, right? Like the study of the sanad and ilm al-rijal, when they would vet someone to see if they were a credible narrator of hadith and tradition and a reliable source of taking Islamic knowledge, there are those two main components that they would look at, where they would look at the person's dabt, and the other thing was
diyana.
There's another word that they use as well.
Adl,
yes. Al-adlu wa-dabt, yes. So an adl is, again, it's more about just that this is a very admirable, trustworthy, good, dedicated, devoted person of high integrity.
Yeah. One thing that comes to my mind, and maybe this could be the point that we can finish this part off with and go on to the topic that we have for today.
Sure.
What worries me a lot is that as the cases increase and as the number of sort of issues increase in the community, where there are people in religious positions, be men or women, and they misuse their influence on people for personal gain, financial, sexual, or otherwise. What worries me is that our people lose their ability to differentiate between individuals and the deen. And what I mean by that is this. I mean, first of all, there's a distinction being made between people's wrongdoings and the religion, right? I think that's the first mistake people usually make when they see religious people do something wrong. They assume that it's the religion that promotes it, that there's a hijabi sister who's backbiting, therefore they think that maybe it's the religion that promotes it.
Yeah,
so distinction.
Back in Pakistan, and I saw this a lot because being from like the Memon community, they're very business oriented, and so the entire business marketplace, the kapra market, the cloth textile market, where everyone's wheeling and dealing, and they're all like small business people brokering deals and this and that, and all my uncles and my cousins, and they were all there working there. And I would hear this kind of negative stereotype that would develop, where if there was like some guy with a big beard and wears a kufi all the time, and he prays in the masjid 5 times a day, and he would engage in like lying and cheating in terms of his business, then they would say things like, "Ye sare maulvi log aise hi hote hain."
Oh.
Like all these religious people, they're all like this. They're all crooks. All religious. You see a topi and a dari, he's a crook. And of course that's wrong. That's foolish to that's a false equivalency. That being said, it's just tragic. More than anything, it's tragic that people start to develop that sentiment.
I don't think it's fair though, Sheikh. I really don't think it's fair.
It's
because first thing is equating people's foul actions to religion. That's a problem in itself, right? And the second thing is imposing one person's, or even if it's a group, even if it's 100 people, I couldn't care. Even if it's 100 people, to dump that on the whole sort of the whole group of people. I mean, we as Muslims have always complained about people labeling us as terrorists. We say that it's a small group of people, and they have nothing to do with Islam. They're misrepresenting Islam, misquoting Islam. There's some crazy people. We, the Muslims, are most offended by the acts of these people that call themselves Muslims. We are harmed most by them. They're reversing all the good work that we've done in our communities, these extremist, crazy nut jobs. So that's a sort of, language that we have on one side. Then on the other side, when it comes to the people in our, of course there are people who are not good. I mean, that's in every field and everything. In every aspect of life, there are people who are not good. There are really bad people out there. And unfortunately, shaitan gets the worst of people and kind of, makes them do things that they shouldn't be doing. But what worries me is that a point comes where then, you have a whole generation of folks that are saying that, oh, we don't trust any of the imams anymore. If a person had to do something wrong, I'm not speaking from a position of I am better than anyone. I am not speaking from that position. I'm just trying to make a point that represents the people who've come before us, who've dedicated their lives to serving this deen, who have written volumes and volumes of books on the different aspects of the deen, that if you're going to use the religion to justify your haram, then get out, please. Just go do your haram somewhere else. But don't tarnish this beautiful tradition and this beautiful religion here. That worries me a lot, and maybe that's a discussion for another time. Today we gather together with the intention of talking about something much more beautiful. Even though internally, Shaykh Abdul Nasir and Ustadh Murphy and I kind of made a pact that we wouldn't talk about Hajj this year because it's a very sad thing. Alhamdulillah.
This session was very hard for all of us to agree to do because nobody really wanted to do it for no other reason than, it's just very, like Mufti Sahib said, it's just very sad and upsetting. But nonetheless, I just kind of felt that every single day I was being contacted by more and more people. And I mean, if I'm being contacted by that many people, I can't imagine how many people are reaching out to Mufti Kamani. I mean, mashallah, you've been taking Hajj groups for so long. I think half of Chicago's done Hajj with you. So I can't imagine the people. So they're reaching out so much day by day. It's increasing because we are in the middle of July, or we're in the second week of July. And so we're right around at that point in time where everyone would basically be packing their bags. We would be having, I remember, I think I got the notification a few days ago that we would be having our Hajj seminar, the big,
oh goodness,
the big Hajj.
Someone forgot to cancel the notification and they're still coming through.
And we would be having a giant big Hajj seminar, 200-300 people going for Hajj. They drive from Arkansas and Oklahoma and Louisiana and Arizona and Houston and Austin. They all drive up to Dallas, and it's streamed for people who live further away, and hosted by Sheikh Mubin Kamani at the Frisco Masjid at the ICF, Islamic Center of Frisco. We have this beautiful gathering where we go through in detail Hajj, and Mufti Kamani, mashallah, he explains to everyone how to do Hajj. And, Ustadh AbdelRahman talks about the beauty and the virtues of Medina. And we talk about how to spiritually make the most of the opportunity. And our illustrious, group person, I'm not sure what to call him, brother, Ustadh Tawqir Zaidi. He talks about the logistics and how we're going to travel, and it's just a remarkable. And so I got the notification a few days ago. So we're right at the moment where everyone's getting ready, packing their bags, figuring out how to put on their ihram, and starting to, have farewell get-togethers and parties, and people start sending them their du'as, and they're contacting people and settling debts and asking for forgiveness and reconciling with family members. And it's right in the smack in the middle of that. So I think because people aren't going for Hajj, they're starting to feel it, and people have been reaching out. So I felt that it was appropriate that we go ahead and talk about it now. And I think that there are some very important things for us to think about, for us to reflect on, and really talk about here today in kind of our casual gathering here at the Hangout, that I think are things that we need to think about in light of this situation. So the first thing was that Mufti Kamani, you could please shed some light on this. What is exactly happening this year? Because I've also had people who were not scheduled to be going for Hajj, reaching out, just basically trying to ask, like, brother, is Hajj canceled?
Oh.
Right. And they think canceled, like kind of like when your flight is canceled, like it's not going, or when an event is canceled and it's not happening. So I think that they're more so asking from that point of view, like it's not even happening, Hajj. So if you could kind of, because we've talked about it, if you could explain to everybody.
So the Saudi government has been struggling with reopening. They did close down partially. I think at the beginning, for a period, there was a hard close down, and then after that, they started reopening again. And now they're at a point where there is, some reopening, a lot of social distancing. They've created their guidelines that they implement through society. I believe there are certain curfew hours depending on where you are in the country and whatnot. The issue is with Hajj that it's such a massive gathering with people traveling from all over the world.
Everywhere.
All over the world. And COVID-19 has hit the world very hard. When I was speaking with Shaykh Abdul Nasir earlier this week, I believe it was, just through messaging, and I was saying to him that I'm almost convinced that the numbers that are being reported in the Muslim world are nowhere near accurate. Like in terms of people being hospitalized, people passing from COVID, people getting sick. And the reason why I feel that is because every single day I'm getting messages of like 7-8 people at least that are passing away. So every day. Like this was something we'd get every 3 days. You'd get a message from someone saying that someone passed away. Shaykh, make dua. At this point, it's like 5-6 people every day. Fulan passed away. Fulana passed away. Fulan passed away. Fulana passed away. And I hope that the causes are not what I suspect them to be, but unfortunately my mind makes me think that a lot of this is COVID related, but it's not being treated properly.
Yeah.
So on one side we want to go, we're really excited about going, but on the other hand, the Saudi government is trying to be careful. I can't imagine how hard it would be for them because they're getting a battering when it comes to the oil prices. They're just tanking. And wallahu alam if this is a result of the dhulm they've done. But anyway, like they're getting a battering due to that on the oil price end, and a lot of the projects that they had going stopped. And we all know that Hajj is a massive source of revenue for them. But Allah reward the folks who made the right call, because had they opened it up, I have no doubt that a lot of people would have gone out of emotion. And I'll be honest with you guys, I was one of those people. I had actually made intention that I might be careless and go. I think I had mentioned this at some point too. That I had made my mind because I didn't know how I would stay away and not be in Mecca if Hajj was available. Like that's something that's very, very dear to me. So the Saudi government, as much as it hurts to say, they made I believe, wallahu alam, they made the right call by not creating that environment of so many people from across the world getting together from different countries without the people being properly tested and no vaccine being available. So from my understanding, the way they've stated this is that Hajj isn't technically canceled. Hajj will go on as usual. However, the Saudi government is not allowing people to enter into the country for Hajj.
That's right.
So people that are in the country, regardless of your nationality, if you apply, you get the visa, you can go as long as you're in the country. I think they're willing to take on the task of managing their local crowd, but which, by the way, is a very large number. Over the past years, sometimes it's past a million locals come. Like it's a big number, right? I believe a lot of those people in the past would come illegally without proper paperwork, but this year they might make it easier, opening it up for more people, so that way the locals can get their Hajj done. So this year, Hajj is on, inshallah. May Allah keep it on forever, and may there not be a year where Hajj is not happening. Even though there are cases in Islamic history where Hajj or Umrah had to be paused due to illnesses and due to plague or and so on. Wallahu alam if it was totally canceled or not, but there are cases. So this year they've cut down the number of people that are going to be going, and this is the time where people start feeling it. Saying that we're approaching the end of Dhul Qa'dah, and Dhul Qa'dah Islamic calendar is kind of like November is. It's the 11th month. And I believe today is like, I think 18th or 19th of the Qaaba.
That's right.
Something like that, towards the end of the month. Within 2 weeks from now, we'll be having our moon sighting. Allahu alam, wars or not, but there's going to be some sort of a moon sighting discussion 2 weeks from now. And we'll be planning, then we'll enter into Hajj, and Hajj is the 12th in the last month of the Islamic calendar. So this is the time that Shaykh was saying that everyone's getting ready, they're all excited. I know there are people who are planning for Hajj at this point, for this point, months ago, and possibly even a year or two ago. But whenever we face difficulty, whenever there is that moment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing us, I always like to, and something I've learned from my peers, Shaykh Abdul, Nasir, and others, that we like to reflect over what would the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? How would he deal with this? Did he ever have something like this? One of our good friends, his father recently passed away, rahimahullah. He's an imam in Wisconsin. His father, rahimahullah, recently passed away, and I sent him a message on the side, and I said to him that there is a pain of losing your father, and then there is a pain of losing someone while not being next to them. Like there's always a pain of losing your father, right? But then there's a pain of not being next to your beloved as they leave. And I said to that this dear friend of mine that in this there is for this point specifically, think of how Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam must have felt when Ruqayya radiallahu anha passed away.
Subhanallah.
Right, because for those of you who aren't aware, she passed away in the absence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah.
They were returning from a particular battle, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam excused her husband from the battle, actually, and he presented this as a hujjah later on when he was accused. Someone said to him that, "Oh, you were a coward and you didn't participate in so and so battle," and he said, "Don't you know that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam he assigned a portion of the spoils of war for me as if I participated, because my lack of participation was due to the command of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam because her health was bad."
Subhanallah.
And it's just something to reflect over. So we think about this, that when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam arrived in Medina Munawwara, there is a political sort of blockade for the Muslims to arrive in Mecca. How does the Prophet feel for 6 years? What does he do? What kind of pain does he feel of not being near the Kaaba? Right? I mean, I'm gonna point this at Shaykh. This Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam just not looking at the Kaaba. قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِهِ. It's the pain that he feels of not being near the Kaaba. Is that something that is? Are we the first people to feel it? Is there any precedence for this? What is the Prophet's example?
One of the most fascinating things, one of the very fascinating things that I remember thinking a lot about from the Seerah, and when actually lecturing on the Seerah, I remember trying to communicate to everyone listening to the dars was that the trip that eventually, the journey of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that eventually became what we know as the Treaty of Hudaibiya. They actually left Medina, 1,400 companions. They actually left Medina along with the Prophet ﷺ with the intention to do Umrah. And from Dhul Hulayfa, which is the miqat of the people of Medina, the place from where people going from Medina have to put on their ihram, they actually stopped and entered into ihram, labbaik Allahumma labbaik. And that is in the 6th year of Hijrah. And the 6th year of Hijrah means in the 2nd year, you had the Battle of Badr. In the 3rd year, you had the Battle of Uhud. In the 5th year, you had the Battle of the Trench, where the Meccans came and tried to just flatten Medina to the ground, and the Muslims had to dig a trench to keep them away. The next year, the Meccans and the Muslims, the Quraysh and the Muslims, the Meccans and the Medinans, they're still mortal enemies. And the Prophet ﷺ is taking 1,400 Muslims to go do Umrah, but the Umrah has to be done at the Kaaba, the Haram, and the Haram is in Mecca, and Mecca is controlled by Quraysh, and Quraysh are the mortal enemies of the Muslims. So it's like if Mufti Kamani was my mortal enemy, and I say I'm gonna come hang out at your house, I'm gonna come, just take a nap inside your house. And he's gonna say, are you crazy? If we were enemies, he's gonna be like, what? We're enemies. You can't just walk into my house and just like have lunch. That's not how this works. But the Prophet ﷺ, the only thing I could think of, aside from, of course, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ, everything the Prophet ﷺ does is by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for our benefit, like the wisdom and the hikmah, to think about it, to reflect on it, the thing that occurred to me was that the love and the longing that the Prophet ﷺ had to look at the Kaaba, to make dua at the Haram, to do tawaf around the Kaaba was so strong that he was willing to walk into enemy territory. He was willing to walk into enemy territory. So absolutely, that is a very, very powerful sentiment from the life of the Prophet ﷺ.
The Prophet I always think of this, how Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam must have felt the desire to go to Mecca and not be able to go, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then rewards the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says to him that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells the companions that on whoever goes to Masjid al-Quba and reads 2 rak'ah there, they gain the reward of an umrah, right? They desired umrah, they couldn't perform the umrah, but Allah is telling them, leave your homes and you go to Quba, which is as far as you need to go, but just do something. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there to reward you for the best that you can do.
Subhanallah.
It's something. It's all about doing something or something or nothing. Many of us can't go to Umrah Hajj this year. Okay. So maybe there's something else we can do. Maybe we can make niyyah of Umrah, or maybe we can make niyyah, making intention to go for Hajj. There has to be something that comes out of our emotions. And I really believe in this. We have people. Yes, go ahead, Shaykh.
No, I was just going to say that you're absolutely right, that there's got to be something beneficial and productive that comes out of this.
People are sad that the masajid are closed. We all are. I'm in that list too, right? It doesn't feel the same praying at home. We love going to the masjid, and it's a part of our family thing, right? We all go with our kids. It's a thing, alhamdulillah. And we all want to go back to our classes and go back to the haram, and it really hurts not going. And I think as the days of Dhul Qa'dah pass by and we get closer to Dhul Hijjah, and as the day of Arafah approaches, it's only going to hurt more. It's only going to, you're only going to feel the pain more. But absolutely, there has to be something that comes out of that pain. Is it just an emotion? Is it just a feeling? Or does something come out of it? And I'm all about action items and doing things. And for me, potentially for those of us who are missing Medina Munawwara, because that's where we go and that's where we wrap ourselves in our shawls early in the morning and walk in the streets to the Haram and pray our tahajjud there, and then come back on the way after walking through Baqi' and head to our to give salam to the Prophet ﷺ. We can't do that, but what we could do instead is make this Dhul Hijjah, make this a next 20 days of extra salawat. Right, that I can't go. So I was thinking of earlier this week, I was sharing with the students a poem written by that's attributed, wallahu alam, to Imam Zain al-Abidin rahimahullah ta'ala, where he says, innilti ya riha saba yawman ila ardil haram balligh salami rawdatan fiha an-nabiyyul muhtasham.
Yeah, they say that he said this poem from the other side of the Baqi' when he was basically removed from his residence.
And he was so sad, and he's sitting there and he's saying, innilti ya riha saba, oh, the wind of the distance. Riha saba, I believe, is the eastern wind.
Yeah.
He's saying, innilti ya riha saba, oh wind, if you reach Medina, then convey my salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The people would say, Ya hamam al-Madina, sallim ala nabina. Like the Bedouins would see the birds, and they would say, oh birds, if you reach Medina, give our salam to Nabina, our prophet. So it was something special. We can't go for Hajj this year, understood. But maybe this is the time for us to make an intention that, the first opportunity I get to go on Hajj, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to try my best. This is a time for us to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we raise our hands and we pray to Allah that, Ya Allah, there are people who go every year and they feel it and they share their experience. Allow me to have my experience. One thing I'll tell you guys is this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is his deen, this is his religion. And this Kaaba is his, this Haram is his, this Hajj is his. Hajj is one of the pillars of Islam. And
it's like one of the landmarks.
What makes Hajj so special, Shaykh? Like, why is it, people, sometimes the ulama refer to it as like the ibadah that combines all ibadah, like the ibadat. What is it about Hajj that's different, that's special? Like, what's unique about it?
So, I mean, one thing you said that's very beautifully said is that there's so many different, analysis that the ulama and the usuliyun have done looking at Hajj, reflecting on Hajj, that it combines so many of the different elements of our deen and our religion, that, in salah you have this physical devotion. So there, of course, we're praying salah, of course, but we're also doing tawaf. There's, zakat and financial, and in Hajj you have to spend your money and you give, you do the sacrifice and you give the sadaqah there to the masakin and the fuqara. Jihad, which is like striving and struggling and traveling and working hard and sweating and grinding for the sake of Allah. That's definitely a part of Hajj. Community, and our interactions with one another are an important part of the deen. وَكُونُوا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ إِخْوَانًا يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اصْبِرُوا وَصَابِرُوا وَرَابِطُوا. And that's an important part of Hajj, that you're there with millions and millions and millions of people, doing Hajj together and worshiping together and striving and struggling together and doing everything together and trying to help one another. So I think that definitely is one of the things that makes Hajj very powerful and very, very effective. There's also just the majesty, the blessing, the history, the sacredness of the place. Like everything that's happened there. Like, the mind can't even process it. Like from Adam alayhi salam coming there, as Ibn Kathir mentions, Adam alayhi salam coming there. There's narrations in Ibn Kathir where he talks about the ship, the Ark of Noah, actually did tawaf around the place of the Kaaba in the water. To Ibrahim alayhi salam coming in the Quran, we know this for certain, إِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ, that he raises the foundations of the Kaaba, to all the prophets of Allah that came from in between there, all the experiences of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam there, and then for 1400 years, right, non-stop, all the worship and the dua that has gone on over there. It's just there's you feel connected to something bigger than yourself when you go there. And while we're kind of talking about what makes Hajj so beautiful and so special, I felt that it would be very appropriate, as being Americans, to also, I was reminded of Malcolm X's comments about Hajj, where he wrote about Hajj, and he said there were tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue.
I'm not sure if that was my side or your side, but there was a little bit of a glitch when you were speaking about, when you were introducing what you're. What you're
sorry about that. This is probably my end. Make dua. I have a little bit of a. Am I back? No.
I'm not sure if it's me or if it's Shaykh. I can kind of hear him.
It's me. Let's wait for it. Somebody in the comments can also let us know when.
Well, while Shaykh's internet's catching up, because he is a little choppy. If anyone can tell us online where the connection issue might be, that'd be awesome. If anyone can just drop into the chat box. Shaykh, are you back?
I think so.
Oh yes, you are.
Okay, I'm back.
That's good. Perfect.
I'm back. I just quickly traveled to another dimension and just came right back. It's glitching again. Okay. Both are back. Okay. They're saying both are back. Hopefully we're back. It's not you, it's me.
The internet's bad, huh?
It's really bad. Well, let's wait for everything to sync back up. It'll just take a second. All right. Let's see. All right.
You know, while they're catching up, Sheikh, I was also thinking, while the internet's settling in, I was also thinking that one of the awesome things about Hajj is the qurbani that goes into it, the sacrifice.
Too much.
Like, they say that بقدر الكد تكتسب المعالي. Depending on how much hard work you put into your task, that's a sort of elevation you're going to accomplish or seek. That's what you're going to get out of it. And when it comes to Hajj, people really go out of their way, Sheikh. I mean, the sacrifice isn't small. Leaving kids behind, leaving your spouse behind if you're going solo, leaving your parents behind if you're their caretaker, putting work on hold, putting family on hold, and all of those sacrifices, you took them on. Like sometimes when I go to the masjid, the sacrifice isn't much because I'm just at home and I'm chilling and I get to go out and on the way back, grab a coffee from somewhere and come back home. It's not that much. But when it comes to Hajj, it's a serious sacrifice. Like, you're doing it and you're not sure what's going to happen. Foreign land, never been to the Middle East, hot as an oven, what's going to happen, and people still do it.
Absolutely.
You were saying something, Sheikh, and you got cut off.
The thing we were talking about, what makes Hajj so beautiful, and we talked about some of the reflections, and just being from America, and it made me immediately think of Malcolm X's reflections on Hajj. And I was reading from what he wrote. He said there were tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans, but we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood that my experiences in America had led me to believe could never exist between the white and the non-white. He says, you may be shocked by these words coming from me, but on this pilgrimage, what I have seen and experienced has forced me to rearrange much of my thought patterns previously held and to toss aside some of my previous conclusions. This was not too difficult for me. Despite my firm convictions, I have always been a man who tries to face facts and to accept the reality of life as new experience and new knowledge unfolds it. I have always kept an open mind, which is necessary to the flexibility that must go hand in hand with every form of intelligent search for truth. During the past 11 days here in the Muslim world, I have eaten from the same plate, drunk from the same glass, and slept in the same bed or on the same rug, while praying to the same God with fellow Muslims, whose eyes were the bluest of blue, whose hair was the blondest of blonde, and whose skin was the whitest of white. And in the words, in the actions, and in the deeds of the white Muslims, I felt the same sincerity that I felt amongst the Black African Muslims of Nigeria, Sudan, and Ghana. We are truly all the same brothers. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds.
Allahu Akbar. Amazing.
Rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy on him.
I mean, it is very beautiful how he talks about the unity of the Muslim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us all.
I mean. So Mufti Sahib, I wanted to, kind of touch on a few points and to try to consolidate some of these thoughts about Hajj. So we talked about how, like, to rest assured for those who are kind of panicking, like, is Hajj not going to happen? No, Hajj will go on, right? The show will go on. Hajj will go on. It'll be limited. Locals will be doing it, but worry not. The house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be abandoned. A friend, somebody that I got to know, Brother Ashraf from the UK, he runs this website, Islamic Landmarks. And he tweeted out and posted on Instagram a picture today from the 1940s where there was flooding in Mecca, and the sa'i, the mas'a, the place of sa'i where they walk between Safa and Marwa, was flooded with water, and you see people swimming doing sa'i.
Wow.
the Hajj will go on. So don't worry. Don't feel like this anxiety that subhanallah, Hajj is not going to happen. It's going to happen. And one other point I wanted to touch on was, we all need to rest assured. And Mufti, I'm going to ask you to comment on this because knowledge intensive is going on, and you specifically covered this in Surah Al-Fil from Imam Razi, that how he talks about how Allah protected the Kaaba. That when Abraha and the army with the elephants came to destroy the Kaaba, Allah protected the Kaaba through miraculous means, and we need to not worry that the Kaaba will be okay.
Absolutely. Imam, the ulama, when they commentate on Surah Al-Fil, which is it's a small surah, by the way. It's not too many ayat, just a few. And in this short, small surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shares with us a great incident that occurred that many historians say coincided with the birth year of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allahu alam. And they refer to this incident as Ashabul Fil, Qissatu Ashabil Fil, or Qissatul Fil, the incident of the elephants, or the incident of the people of the elephants. Without going into too much detail of the actual incident, there was a man who had ill intentions towards the Kaaba, and he marched towards the Kaaba with the intention of breaking it down, destroying it. He was very firm, very adamant that he was going to do it. He came with elephants to shoo off the residents. The Arabs would have no idea how to handle elephants. And he had the manpower and also the elephant power to lay flat anything that was in front of him. But Abdul Muttalib said it best. أنا رب الإبل وللبيت رب سيمنعه. He just said it best, and I think that the Quran, the message that he gives is a very Quranic message, even though he didn't live long enough to see revelation, experience revelation. He says that I am the owner of the camels. The Kaaba has its own owner, and he will protect it. And if you're wondering why is he referring to this camels, it's because Abraha took some of his camels and he came to claim them back. And Abraha thought it was crazy that this man was worried about his camels and not concerned about the Kaaba that he's planning to bulldoze down. And it just tells us that even though this man didn't have a pure monotheistic belief, Abdul Muttalib, but he wasn't considered to be from among the Hunafa. No, right? He wasn't one of the people that was there was a group of people who lived pre-Nubuwah who were known as the Hunafa. These were people who didn't get involved with any shirk, any sort of random or even corrupt beliefs. And even then he said that I have a faith that there is a God, and this Kaaba belongs to him, and it will continue. And as Shaykh Abdul Nasir just said, the show will continue on. That whether we're going to get past COVID, guys. We are going to get past it. I don't care what anyone tells you. I don't care. There will be a new reality. The world will change, but we will get past it. And this is, for some of us, it's going to slow us down. And I agree. In some aspects, there are going to be things that hurt. We just spent our Ramadan at home. That didn't feel good for anyone. For some of us, the Hajj is our highlight, and we're not going to be going. We have to just accept it. That's it. And it's a reminder.
We're probably going to be doing our second consecutive Eid in our respective backyards.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. And that's actually very, very, very possible. We're going to be doing another Eid in our backyards, And I think it's a humbling experience too. It's humbling because it's a moment for us to reset our intentions on why we're doing what we're doing. Alhamdulillah, I've been going for Hajj for quite a few years, and now me not going this year has been a massive check on me. That was it my desire to go because it was routine and I had a role, I had something to claim that, hey, I had gone for so many years straight. Is that why you were doing it? Or was there a talab in your heart? Is there a desire? And not doing it actually gave me a chance to reflect over why I do it when I end up doing it again, inshallah. And I thought of this, I was thinking about this a few days back, by the way, about doing ibadah consecutively versus breaking it up and doing an ibadah. And then I remembered how Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam referred to the Afdal Sawm. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam referred to the best schedule of fasting, Sawm Dawood.
Yes.
The schedule of, what's special about that schedule, Shaykh?
Where the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in another narration, he says that I'll be fasting one day where I will be patient and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for provision. And then one day I get to eat, and then I get to enjoy the blessings of Allah and thank Allah for his bounties.
So what's the whole thing of, what's your perspective on this? That, you're doing something and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes just causes a break. And it's not a break because you want it to be there. It's not a break because you've planned for it, but it's a break because it's a break. Mm-hmm. What's something that you would take out of that? What's a lesson there?
For me, the big thing always is, and it's pretty standard. Some would consider it cliche, but I'm a normal person, so I get out of it what a lot of people would get out of it, and that is, I realize the value of it. We've been going for Umrah in March, the Qalam Umrah tour. We've been doing it for 5 years, 6 years in a row. We've been going every year. And it was almost like I just kind of started to expect, expectations are tricky. I almost started to expect and almost kind of assume that I'm going to get my annual check-in at the Haram and at the Kaaba. I'm going to get to go there and kind of cleanse my heart and pour my heart out at the Kaaba. And I'm going to get to go to Medina and soften my heart in the city of the Prophet ﷺ. There was this kind of expectation. And subhanAllah, when it did not happen this year, it really made me realize the value of it. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, I'm never, ever, ever going to take that for granted ever again. So one other thing that I was going to kind of touch on very quickly is, and we talked about it already, that, those of us who are planning to go, we're not going to get to go for Hajj. Those of us who would have hoped to have gone are not getting to go. And there's a sadness that we're feeling because of it. But we talked about this. It's okay, right? While we should have hope, like Mufti Kamani, mashallah, very beautifully said, it's all going to pass, and we're going to be able to go back, inshallah. We got to have that positivity and that hope in the mercy of Allah. But in the moment, if we feel a little down, if we feel a little sad, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not tragic. And it's okay to feel a little bit of a sadness, because we're feeling a sadness and a longing for the house of Allah, and how that is actually a sign of Iman. If my trip to Hajj, I wasn't able to go to Hajj anymore, and I would have been like, oh, hi, friend. Salam alaikum, friend. This is, oh, beta, what are you doing? This is my very, very good friend. Mufti, do you want to explain to everyone how we became such good friends?
Radhiya, beta? Is this Shaykh uncle? Does he give you a lot of candy? Is that a good thing or bad thing? Bad thing.
So she would come to campus a lot. And she was very nervous, right? The kids always get nervous when they see me. I don't know why, but the kids always get nervous when they see me. And I just said, all right, I got this under control. And I started keeping like a drawer full of candy, and I would just give her like so much candy all day long. Oh, man, it's good to see her. Alhamdulillah. So, Muqta, I was saying that people feel a little bit of sense of sadness, not being able to go for Hajj. And I told them that, inshallah, have hope in the mercy of Allah, but the little bit of sadness that you feel is not a bad thing. It's a sign of your iman. It shows that you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
سأطلب عنكم بعد الدار لتقربني.
Allahu Akbar.
زر غبا تزدد حبا. That's another perspective, right? That sometimes you have to go away to get closer.
Allahu Akbar.
Sometimes when you don't have it, you realize the value of it. And hopefully that increases our love for the Kaaba. And you're right, Shaykh, that the fact that we don't feel the fact that we feel the pain is a sign of our iman.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Imagine if like my trip to Hajj was no longer happening, and I'm just kind of like, oh well, I guess so. That's kind of terrible. I wasn't going to go to the mall. I was going to go to the house of Allah. I should be sad. you know.
Yeah.
So one other last point, and then we'll wrap up, because looks like Radia wants Mufti Saab's attention. The last thing, and this is going to be a little bit of the uncle thing to say and a little bit of the Desi dad thing to say, but I think it's important, and that is, if anyone out there had the ability to go for Hajj previously, and you just kind of were engaging in the maybe next year, maybe after that, I got some other stuff, I got to do this, I got to figure this out. And now you see so many people would give their right arm to go for Hajj. They would give so much to be able to go for Hajj, and they're not able to go now. Please, please never take it for granted ever again. We should all make the intention right now that as soon as possible, I'm going to go for Hajj, and I'm never going to delay it ever again.
Inshallah.
Yeah. Very, very important. I just think that that's important to say. And we'll wrap up, inshallah. Mufti Saab, if you could just say a little dua, inshallah, that can bring comfort to our hearts, and give us a little bit of hope and inspiration about going and being able to visit the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Ya Allah, we raise our hands in front of you in this blessed gathering as Maghrib approaches. Ya Allah, as Friday starts, we ask that you shower us all with your mercy. Ilah al-Alameen. We ask that you accept our intentions. Ya Allah, allow us to reach the boundaries of the Haram. Ya Allah, allow us to enter into the Haram. Ilah al-Alameen. Bless us with the shade of the Kaaba, quench our thirst with the water of Zamzam. Ilah al-Alameen. Allow us to witness Safa and Marwa. Ya Allah, allow us to enter into the state of Ihram. Ilah al-Alameen. Allow us to perform Hajj again and again in our life. Ya Allah, as long as the obligations remain, as long as His deen remains, Ya Allah, allow us to be the ones who engage in ibadah. Ya Allah, shower us with the opportunity of stepping into Haram Medina. Ya Allah, allow us to pray in your Prophet's mosque. Ya Allah, allow us to give salam to your Prophet. Ilah al-Alameen, we ask you to allow us to enter into Al-Baqi'. Ya Allah, we ask you to allow us to enter into Rawda min Riyad al-Jannah. Ilah al-Alameen, those lands are so blessed. Do not keep us deprived of them. Ya Allah, allow us and our children to be regulars and that your Prophet lived his life in. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Ameen, 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 ya Rabbil Alameen.
Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. Real quickly, as a reminder, all the online programs are going on with Qalam, like this hangout we do every Thursday. Please, inshallah, join us for all these programs. They're here for your benefit. We do have the knowledge intensive going on. It's, pretty, alhamdulillah, it's in full swing. I understand some people always kind of find out about things a little bit later. If you are finding out about it and you'd like to still join it, you can still sign up and join for it, inshallah. Website. All the recordings are there. Everything is available. But just in general, inshallah, stay connected with Qalam. And we're happy to have you here, and we're happy to be here for you. And Radia, Nuni Jay, Nuni? She said yes. All right. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam.